Kathleen Henderson here from Roots and Boots. I thought I would take you on a little tour of our kitchen garden. It's late May, so it's still spring, and I'll show you what's growing. Lucy is getting some exercise here in the kitchen garden. Makes it hard to catch her. She wakes up with so much energy, doesn't she, Creed?
So you want it down? You want to get some exercise?
We do have a large in-ground garden where I do a lot of my planting out behind our big barn, but right here behind the house is the kitchen garden. It's all raised bed boxes, and I like to grow a little bit of everything here because it makes it easy to just literally run out and grab just what we need. I grow herbs here and a little bit of everything else, so I'll show you. On this side we have basically 12 boxes. It's 11 boxes. It's kind of a long story. We have some plans for this middle space, so when we added this last row of boxes, we decided not to add a box there because we're gonna have to move it eventually. I'm kind of wishing that we had just gone ahead and added that box because I think it's gonna take a while to get to our eventual vision here, and now I feel like this little setup looks a little bit hillbilly, but I'm going with it. It's growing space and I'm using it. So anyway, when we first moved in, these were the first 6 boxes, original 6 boxes, and then I think still in our first year, like towards the end of that summer, we added this row of 3, and then maybe last year, I lost track of the timing a little bit, but then we added this row. So now I'm up to what is the equivalent of 12 raised beds here. So I always grow some leafy greens and lettuces. I usually grow most of that here in the kitchen garden because I want easy access to it. I do not know what is going on with my green onions. They did terribly. Maybe I need to start with new seed every year. I'm still trying to figure that out. I used to grow those so well at our other house, but on the farm I've had a lot of issues with getting them to germinate, so I don't know. That's something I need to investigate. But the rest of this box is lettuces, and last year I had potatoes planted here, and so there are we obviously missed some. That's actually happening in like all of the places where we had potatoes last year. So I'm just letting them come up and see if they do anything for us. This is the last bed that still needs to be turned over, make the switch from last year's garden to this year's garden. I've got a little bit of a plant nursery going on here. These are onions from last year that are going to seed, and I might try to save some of them, although I forgot to label what kind of onions they are, so they will be mystery onion seeds. These are radishes and carrots and spinach. My spinach didn't germinate as well as I would have liked, but it's still a decent amount for us. And then I have peppers going in there later. Those are onions and kale. More onions left over from last year that are going to seed. This is another box where I'm going to put peppers very soon. This is another box where potatoes are coming back again. And then this chard was coming up. I saved chard seeds last year, and so some of them just came up volunteer, and so I went ahead and transplanted them, moved them all to this spot, and will enjoy that soon. It's doing great. You can kind of see like some of the aftermath of the transplanting. It looked terrible when I first transplanted it. Like you would have thought it wasn't going to make it, but I knew it would be fine, so I just kept watering it and gave it. It's really been about a week, maybe even less, that I transplanted it, and now it's bouncing back and it's great. These are my pepper seedlings that are going in maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Again, it's the end of May. I'm here in zone 7A, and I don't like to rush to get my peppers planted because they really prefer hot weather. So I have been hardening them off up on the porch around the corner in a protected spot, and now I've moved them out into the sun, and I'm starting to think about actually putting them into the ground. Excited about our peppers this year. This is my celery, which is looking awesome, growing 2 different kinds. This kind is Utah Tall. It's a green celery, and this type is Chinese white. It is a white celery, it has a white stalk. This tends to be ready earlier, and this one is a little later, so I like to grow them both. The Chinese white has a thinner stalk. I don't know if you can see that. It tends to be on the thin side. And then this green celery, although the stalks don't get as big as celery that you would find at the grocery store, the stalk does get a little bigger than the white. And the taste, if you've never tasted fresh celery, you are missing out. We say that about just about everything that we grow here. It just doesn't compare to what you can buy in the grocery store, but celery, with the celery, we really notice it. This is chard that's left over from last year. We pulled out all the bolting plants, and these I think reseeded, and they're newer plants, so I'm gonna let them grow there. And again, more onions that are going to seed. This kale, similar to the chard, I saved kale seed last year, actually over there, and I had these massive kale plants when I was waiting for the seeds to drop, and they dropped their seeds all over there. And so I had all of these kale plants came up volunteer, and I just scooped them out and transferred them over here to a little kale section. Did I already say peppers are going in there? Here is some more kale that I transplanted. I keep cutting off the leaves so it still looks teeny tiny because we're eating it as fast as it produces. And then over here is teeny tiny baby chard that's still coming up. More onions. Sorrel I'm trying for the first time this year. I actually tried to start it from seed, but none of it came up. I sowed it all in this area and nothing came up, so I just bought some at a local nursery. No shame in that because I want to give it a try. I have some friends who rave about it, and it's a green that I've never grown before, so I'm going to give it a shot. These are Nasturtiums that I started from seed, and I didn't think they were going to make it. I neglected them, but I got them in the ground, and I think they're bouncing back because they're sporting new green leaves. And then this is a new basil variety that I'm trying this year. It's like teeny tiny. It has teeny tiny leaves. I forget what it's called. But anyway, I picked that up at the local nursery, and I'm excited to try that. Let's see, what does it say? Miette. Grows to a perfect 10-inch sphere, bright green and compact. So I thought that would be fun for the kitchen garden. I have bigger basil growing out in the far garden. And then this is a different kind of kale that I started from seed this year. I direct sowed it right here. What I like to do is direct sow stuff, and then when it starts coming up, I move it so that it's spaced to where I want, because some of it doesn't germinate. Like, you wind up with gaps, and then some of it you'll get like a whole little clump of, 3 or 4 plants, and I don't want them growing all together. So I will like manually just rearrange them, water them really well, and they always do great. So this is a long leaf kale. This starts with an L, and I can't remember how to pronounce it. I haven't grown it before, so I'm excited to try that this year. This is more of the same type of kale. And this is kind of my like onion overflow. Plus, like I said, I like to keep some of everything close to the kitchen. So I think the only thing that still needs to go in the kitchen garden is peppers. And so all of those like empty spots, I grow a lot of peppers. And the dirt in these boxes is really good, especially in these original 6 boxes. I'll actually link to my posts on hugelkultur. Highly recommend it. The overview is that you fill the bottom of the box with branches and logs and like rotting wood, and then you layer organic material on top, and then you do your dirt and your compost on top and grow in that. And we've been doing that. We're going into our 4th growing season here, and those original 6 boxes are doing great. And if you read the article, you'll know why those are doing so well. This is the row that struggled in its first year, but I've really worked on it. And it's doing much better now. This row was so if I'm not like right here when things are happening, sometimes things don't happen the way I want them to. And what I mean by that is I had help filling these boxes, and while I was very thankful that Greg and the boys filled them for me, by the time I got out here to see what they were doing, I realized that they had made the wood way too high, and there wasn't enough room at the top for as much dirt as I would have liked. But by the time I saw what was happening, it would have been really hard to undo it. So we just went with it, and I knew that I would have to give it a little bit of time and let it keep settling so I can keep adding more compost and dirt on top. But they all, you know, considering that they did pretty well last year, and I'm expecting them to do even better this year. Now on this side I have 3 little what we call herb boxes, because this is the original herb box that Greg built for me at our other house, and we actually brought it over here, and then he made 2 more similar. This one he made really fancy. He made it with the angled corners, but then he made 2 to match it in size, but just did it. In fact, that needs to be shored up, but he did it in the same corner style that we have used on all of these big raised beds over here. Anyway, these are the herb boxes. These are my strawberries that are clearly telling me that they want more space. I would love to have some rows of strawberries out in our far garden at some point. Maybe even later this year. We're working on something. But for now, these are the strawberries, and right now they are, oh, I think this is a volunteer chard plant that I can move. Right now the strawberries are ripening, so I'm gonna eat one. They are amazing, so delicious, so much. Oops, that one's kind of gross. It has a bug infestation. Someone got to it before me. But the flavor is amazing, so much better than what you get at the grocery store. This is my thyme and chives, and I planted cilantro this year. I just bought those at a nursery. I did not start them from seed. I did start my parsley from seed. I use a lot of parsley, so I have this supply here near the kitchen, and then I have a lot more out in the far garden. This is a Swallowtail Caterpillar, and parsley and carrots attract swallowtail caterpillars, and I used to get nervous when they would eat my carrot greens, because that's what they do. They eat the green leafy parts. I used to get nervous that they were damaging my carrots, and I'm kind of ashamed to say I used to smush them. But then I learned that the greens just come right back. So now I let the caterpillars eat all they need. Of course, if they eat the parsley, you know, with a carrot, if they eat the greens, there's still a carrot growing in the ground, but with the parsley, if they eat the greens, that's the same part that I like to eat, but I don't mind too much, and I do grow tons of parsley. So now I let them eat what they need, because then they will turn into butterflies, which are, of course, pollinators. This is more celery. This is celery that I started later, and so it's smaller, obviously. This box, last year I had tomatoes growing here and some peppers and other things, and these 3 tomato plants all came back volunteer, just from seed from the tomatoes that were here last year, and I'm going to let them grow there, because I had a little mishap with some of my tomato seedlings, although now it's fine and I have plenty of tomato seedlings. But these are 3 cherry tomatoes, Sunrise Bumblebee, that are really beautiful, and I wanted some tomatoes here close to the house anyway, so that's perfect. So those grew themselves from seed. Oh, and this is another potato that I actually stuck in there because I found it in the ground down here. This down here is where we had a lot of potatoes planted last year, and now this year I have my garlic there, and I intercropped some lettuces. You can see all of that big green leafy stuff. That's all potatoes. So obviously we missed a lot of probably tiny potatoes. These are, I'm pretty sure those are ladybug larvae, which is fantastic. Ladybugs are our friends in the garden, so you can't see them very well, but I have some lettuces growing down there, and over here there is a terrible weed that tries to take over this whole spot. Oh look, a garlic scape. These are starting to scape. That's awesome. So I can cut these off, and if you've never used garlic scapes before, they're kind of like a bonus of growing your own garlic. They are not quite as garlicky as the actual garlic bulb, but they do have a mild garlic flavor, and you can use them just like you would garlic. So that's the garlic and the lettuces. These are some blueberries here, and elderberry back here. We have 2 bushes. I'm pretty sure you need 2 different varieties for good pollination. We have a variegated variety, and I forget what they're called, and this one is obviously not variegated. More garlic here, and then this empty space that I'm walking through, which I shouldn't be walking through, but all of this right here. This is actually where I grew the bulk of our peppers last year, but I try to rotate crops and wait at least every 3 years before I would. So since I grew peppers here last year, you know, I would wait not next year or the next year, but the year after that I could grow peppers here again. But I am planning to put sweet potatoes here. I always order them as slips and they arrive in the mail. And there was actually a delay. I just got an email. I was expecting them this week, but it's gonna be another week or two. But so they're gonna go in this space here, which is kind of in the ground. It's like a hybrid between an in-ground garden and a raised bed because we're on a hill here, and we kind of terraced this with posts that we had on hand. Slightly hillbilly, but it works, and it's what we had at the time. So it's kind of in-ground, but also kind of raised, which is great. It's really, at this end, it's more like a raised bed garden. Strawberries, they are so delicious. They never even make it into the house. That's why I need to plant so many more. And if you're curious, I thought I would show you this at the other end of the garden is my little garden shed. It actually used to be an outhouse. It's like a vintage outhouse that we bought at a local shop. And Greg also built me this table. Let me flip the camera around and I'll show you. But Greg built me this table. We thought originally that we were going to use this spot for this old cast iron sink that we have. That's why it's there. But we realized after we had it all together that the sink just wasn't going to work. It looked really cool, but the setup wasn't great. So this I love. This is my rinsing table. It's just hardware cloth, and I can lay veggies here and rinse them. My hose is right here, and this hose reaches all the way across to that far corner where I showed you the garlic and lettuces. It can be a little unwieldy sometimes, but I like that I can get all the way to the other end. And then this is just a flat surface. So what I usually use this middle part for is I have a green plastic potting tub that I will sit there, and I've got my potting soil. So I will pot stuff up and use this whole space as my potting bench, and it works great. These are my lupines that are fading. They were so beautiful, and they make me want to plant so many more. I have to keep this rock here, or the door opens because this part is not very reliable. But there is my green plastic potting tub that I was talking about. I love it. And this is my unorganized, well, I shouldn't say it's unorganized. It's just, I need to figure out, I don't know, maybe I need to do shelves in the back. Maybe that would be a better way to organize things. I just haven't settled on a good system. I do like having nails to hang things to go vertical. There's my soil blocker. So yeah, if you have any great ideas for organizing my garden shed, I am all ears.